Working on your own game is the dream of countless aspiring indie developers, and doing it independent of others is the ultimate achievement. We've recently released a popular series of videos on the best solo-developed games, but we should note that for every successful solo development cycle, there have been countless others that have crashed and burned. In this video, we will review the main errors that solo devs make. We are Ask Gamedev, and these are the 8 biggest solo developer mistakes. Welcome back. We make videos on how to elevate your games and inspire others. If you want to continue the game development conversation after this video, check out the video description for a link to our Discord channel. Maybe this scenario sounds familiar. You have a great game idea that you've been thinking about for some time, and you move forward with development on your own. After all, it's best to start making progress as opposed to overanalyzing your concept and not making forward momentum. While your ambition is to be commended, this path isn't without risk. Specifically, you risk wasting time and effort by working independently and not validating your ideas with others. It's extremely hard to be objective about your own ideas, especially when you are working closely on them every day. Mechanics may seem enjoyable and intuitive to you as the main game designer, but might appear to others as complicated, inaccessible, or just plain not fun. A main tenet of good game design is to constantly solicit feedback from others to validate your assumptions. And far too often, solo developers miss this principle and spend time building something that simply doesn't resonate. One of the main goals of a successful development cycle is to always have a build ready to demo to others. A build that is always stable and playable can be extremely beneficial, especially when it comes to those unexpected and time-sensitive opportunities around partnerships and marketing. With indie development, you may only get one chance at a possible publishing or marketing deal, and it can be heartbreaking to have that opportunity slip through your fingers as a result of a build that isn't playable. How can this happen, you ask? Oftentimes, solo developers don't have to regularly create builds for external purposes during pre-alpha development. Cleanly tested integrations of new code can often be an afterthought to just finishing a feature or mode. The risk of this approach is that if at some point a working demo is needed, the developer may learn upon inspection that their build is buggy, crashing, or heaven forbid, not even building. Avoid these scenarios by striving for continuous quality through clean code check-ins that are thoroughly tested in advance. If you haven't been following the continuous quality movement that is gaining huge momentum in our industry, we highly suggest you look into it. Many major developers are now integrating DevOps functions within their teams, with automated testing and regular builds becoming a central part of their development strategy. This next point builds off the last principle of always having stable builds, and that is the importance of professional source control. As we mentioned earlier, a lot of indie developers just start working on their game without spending a lot of time thinking about any long-term development strategy. Why delay momentum when you have the urge to dive into an engine and get creating? Unfortunately, one area commonly ignored is the consideration of a scalable file structure and source control solution. After all, the solo dev often doesn't know if the game will even be completed, let alone need other collaborators to participate in development. So, why slow down progress thinking about those future considerations? But as development moves onward, more and more code and files are created by the solo developer with little regard for clean architecture and scalable file management. This can often result in a mess of file references that can cause lots of headaches as development advances, especially if others are eventually brought on to help and need access and onboarding to the code. This situation can be especially risky when local to one computer source control is used. All it takes is some failed hardware, and a poor developer could lose all of their hard work through corrupted or damaged files. That's why giving some forethought to proper file architecture and using a professional source control solution to safely save all development files is an essential part of setting up a build that can scale. Popular source code solutions include Git and Perforce. We highly recommend spending some time familiarizing yourself with your file management options if you are serious about spending significant time on your title. Supporting professional coding standards can be work, and it's not always the quickest way to develop. Some indie devs prefer to hack their ideas into code quickly, believing that gaining momentum with their development is more valuable than building ship-quality code that would meet the standards of professional developers. Just get it working and don't worry about that best practice of having a peer review your code. While there is merit to this approach, what is clear is that poorly constructed code can cause lots of problems if you ever need to bring on an extra set of hands to help out. And that is common, given how hard it is to ship a game on your own. Code should be efficient, extensible, properly formatted, and ideally be accompanied by architecture diagrams and useful code comments. Trying to layer on code quality late in development can be very time-consuming and can significantly slow down progress, so consider reviewing your code quality early and often. Game development is hard, and it's very uncommon for a solo developer to have expertise in all of the disciplines necessary to make a great game. Even with the benefit of today's full-featured game engines that offer much of the commonly used game features, you can bet that a lot of effort is going to be put into getting a game to release quality. Some aspiring devs take the difficulty of game development one step further and try to create their own custom engine in parallel with creating their solo developed title. The thinking is usually that a custom engine can be optimized to support the specific game type being developed. If the game is a success, the investment in engine tech will make future content releases all the more efficient to develop. While there can be merit to this approach, it adds a layer of complexity to development that the overwhelming majority of developers simply aren't ready for. Creating your own engine requires tremendous development forethought and can often result in more time trying to scale the engine architecture as opposed to developing the fun in the game. The common result is that the game never gets completed because the tech work became just too overwhelming. Continuing development by migrating to an off-the-shelf engine is often problematic as well, as the game elements are often not in a compartmentalized structure that allows for easing porting to a different tech framework. Today, there are engines specializing in virtually all types of game types. If you're planning to take on engine development, make sure you do your homework and ensure that there isn't a better off-the-shelf option that can save you time and agony. Check out this recent video we did on the best game engines. The majority of solo developers come from an engineering background. Many of these people have worked in the gaming industry in the past and have learned about modern game engines and game architecture to the extent that they are confident in their ability to embark on their own development journey. As a result, many of the engineering-focused solo devs have an obvious skill set gap: the ability to make beautiful or interesting art content that is necessary to attract users to their game. These assets can be models and textures, animations, particle effects, or 2D art. Making great art content isn't easy. It's one thing to know how to use the art software, and it is quite another to be able to create a great visual style that can translate to a unique look. There are countless solo-developed games with bad art that look and feel amateurish, and they don't achieve the commercial success their developers envisioned. Check out these legendary indie games, Braid and Towerfall. Braid was created with programmer art during development, and a lot of time was spent after creating Braid's iconic art style. When Towerfall was first created as a game jam game, it already had an art style that many would feel comfortable with. When developing Towerfall for a retail release though, Matt Makes Games gave the game more than a fresh coat of paint. He had all the art redone. For more info on how to find great art content for your game, check out this recent video we made on how to get art for your game. We should also note there are increasingly more no-code engines out there for those aspiring developers that don't have programming experience. Solo game dev isn't limited to those who can code. Check out our recent video on the best of the no-code game engines. Ensuring your game is stable and as bug-free as possible is a critical phase in development. It requires planning and foresight, as you will want to address the bug fixing of each feature in a thoughtful manner. Professional quality assurance teams build and test plans that work in lockstep with development. They focus on the most influential areas of the game first, providing usability feedback in addition to major crash and bug information. Once the tuning of a feature is complete, the test process focuses on identifying all of the edge case issues, with the development team closing all must-fix issues before being locked out of that area of the code, so that they don't introduce instability of knock-on effects on other game areas. Unfortunately, many solo developers don't follow such a structured test and bug fix process. They can often jump around the code fixing items in an unstructured manner, resulting in knock-on bugs and confusing, deep-rooted issues that are hard to fix. The filing period of a game can drag on, and as a result, the solo developer can often lose faith in their ability to ever ship a clean title. So, take time when you're a feature complete and plan out a strategy for your testing and bug fixing. Look into what the professionals do and customize your plan to fit your timeline and game type. Before we show you the last of the biggest solo developer mistakes, let's review this week's Ask Gamedev community member Game of the Week. It's BQM, BlockQuest Maker, from developer Wonderland Kazakiri, which in Japanese means Wonderland Paradise. Made with Unity, BQM is a game builder that takes inspiration from games like The Legend of Zelda, Super Mario Maker, and Minecraft. The game started out as a solo-developed prototype, then went on to be turned into a full-fledged game by a team of 2 full-time developers over the course of 2 years. BQM can be found on Steam, iOS, Android, and Nintendo Switch. The final solo developer mistake on our list is the one mistake that we see most often, and that is not finishing. As countless of aspiring developers have discovered, starting a game is relatively easy, while finishing and shipping it is tremendously hard. The scope of work necessary to complete a game can be significant, and for many solo devs, that mountain of work doesn't become obvious until midway through development. Solo devs often don't have a financial budget to bring on development support, nor did they get other creators invested in their game idea. This means it can be hard to get the necessary support to complete a game, and many games never see release as a result. It's a sad reality of our industry that many more games are started than completed. Thanks for watching. For more Ask Gamedev, check out this video on the best solo-developed games here, or this video on the most wanted team roles in game development.